Hello and welcome back to Dreadwolf R&R. I'm your host Dreadwolf, and I'd like to once again thank you for tuning in. For today's video, I thought I'd take a look at the Saiyan army and how the Saiyan army was structured before its ultimate destruction. I'll also take a look at the individual ranks within the Saiyan army and what each Saiyan's power levels dictated about those ranks. So stay tuned and I hope you enjoy the video. Let's get straight into the discussion on the Saiyan army. So the Saiyan army came into effect in age 730 and might have its origins in the Saiyan Toffle War, which ultimately ended in age 730. The Saiyan army was led by the ruler of planet Vegeta at the time, King Vegeta, although King Vegeta was not the ultimate leader of the Saiyan army. As we know, the Saiyan army was a branch of the Frieza Force. After being subjugated by Frieza, all physically and mentally able Saiyans were drafted into the army. This included children, as we can see in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie with Raditz and Vegeta, and even young babies, as we know from, the original story of Dragon Ball. During their time, the Saiyan army fought many conflicts for Frieza. This ultimately earned them his respect. They were powerful. Their battle prowess was to be respected. However, because of their battle prowess and rapidly increasing power, they also earned his distrust, and we ultimately know how that ended. The Saiyan army was deactivated in age 737 with the destruction of the entire Saiyan race. Shy of the few survivors, which ultimately became the Saiyan army remnants, that being Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz. Other survivors, Goku, Paragus, and Broly, they aren't seen as remnants, they are more seen as defectors. Goku being a defector because he ultimately forgot his mission, having, bumped his head as a child and got amnesia. Alright, so following on, let's look at how the Saiyan army was structured. As we already know from the history of Dragon Ball Z, Saiyan babies have their power levels checked at birth. This was actually mentioned by Raditz in the early episodes of Dragon Ball Z. If they possess the requisite power level, they are raised as full warriors in the Saiyan army. However, if their power level remains too low for too long, they are classed as low-class warriors, Goku being such an example. Low-class warrior babies are sent off to planets with low-powered inhabitants such as Earth. They are known as infiltration babies, who, upon maturing, carry out the order that they were given to extinguish all life on said planet and then return home to planet Vegeta. Upon returning to planet Vegeta, after completing their mission, they would then be given the full rank of combatant and treated as an actual warrior in the army. The problem with this was infiltration babies had a very low survival rate, so only the best of the best made it back. Initially, when we were introduced to the Saiyan army by Nappa, we were only given two ranks: the low-class warriors such as Goku and Bardock, and the elites, Nappa counting himself among the elites. However, Akira Toriyama has actually provided new information to suggest that there's actually three classes: the low-class warrior, the mid-class warrior, and the elite. Okay, so focusing in on ranks a bit more, we find out that almost all Saiyans are low-class warriors, with Bardock being at the top of the lower class. Not all lower-class Saiyans were fighters. We can see that lower-class Saiyans perform different roles in the Minus manga. For example, Gine was a part of Bardock's group before she eventually retired and became a meat processor. We also see that the guy that flew Paragus' ship, Beats, he was an engineer and a pilot, not a combatant. We also see, in the throne room, just before we meet Beats, that steward, what they call it, a majordomo, a word I've never heard before. I actually looked that guy up. But low-class Saiyans, they performed a variety of tasks outside of combat. That isn't to say that they weren't fighters. Like, all Saiyans are fighters, naturally, we know this. But interesting to see that lower class Saiyans, if they were to become more powerful over time, then they stood a very good chance of being promoted upper rank to the mid-class Saiyans, which I'll be talking about next. Touching in on Bardock one more time, as stated, he was at the top of the low-class Saiyans. However, he wasn't powerful enough to get promoted to the next level, that being, the mid-class warrior. In total, there are about 10 mid-class warriors, including Nappa and Raditz. Paragus and Broly obviously recently got added to that list, so it'd be interesting to find out, if 2 dropped out. Actually, it wouldn't really be, because there wasn't really any mention of any other mid-class level warriors before. I mean, there's Zorn, who was mentioned in the previous works, but beyond that, none of the other mid-class warriors were ever named. Anyways, regardless, what we do know from Nappa is that he's from a noble family, and he has the highest rank in the Saiyan army, armed forces, that being the rank of general. So this might be a bit of speculation on my part, but I believe that, mid-class warriors actually receive real military ranks. Nappa is a general. Paragus was a lieutenant colonel, so I believe that once you ascend to the mid-class territory, they do generally assign you military ranks. Interesting note that although Raditz and Nappa are both mid-class warriors, I don't believe that Raditz was a general. For one, he was a child, and 2, he was somewhat weak for a mid-class warrior. But I'll get into that more when I talk about the actual power levels in the lower class, mid-class, and elite class warriors. And lastly, we come to the final rank in the Saiyan army, that being the elite. And thanks to Akira Toriyama clarifying some stuff later on down the line, we know that Nappa was telling Porky's when he called himself an elite, he's a mid-class piece of trash, because among the elite there were only 2, that being King Vegeta and Vegeta the Fourth. There's not much to say about the elite class. I believe personally it was reserved just for the royals. So I highly doubt that the promotion that we see from lower class to mid class would be available to a mid class warrior to the elite. Obviously, we know that the power required to be in the elite class has been surpassed hundreds of times over now. Even by humans. So I really just believe the elite status was a way of King Vegeta distinguishing him and his family from the rest of the Saiyans. Based on the information given by Akira Toriyama, found in data books and comments made by characters themselves, we can sort of work out how powerful a fighter would have to be to fit into each rank. Now, admittedly, some of this is guesswork, as not all power levels were revealed, but from the information I was able to find, I'm fairly confident in the numbers I'm about to provide, give or take. There's not definitive, but thereabouts. So a lower class warrior should have a power level between 1 and 1000, as Beach the Engineer states that Broly as a child has a power level of 920, which is stronger than him. Any higher and they would have to be considered for promotion to the mid class. Bardock, as powerful as he was unable to move up to the mid class, as I stated before. So using that weakling Raditz as an example, who had a power level of 1500, we can see that the power of the mid-class warrior rank is within attainable range for a lower class Saiyan. So between 1 and 1000 for your average low class Saiyan, and 1 to 1500 for those up for promotion at the time. The mid-class Saiyan should be between 1000 and 4000. I say 1000 as I'm including those Saiyans who were powerful enough to get promoted to the mid-class if they ever arose, as confirmed both mid-class warriors that we know of, Nappa and Paragus, have definitive power levels of 4000 respectively at the time of their death. And finally, we get the elite class, which is between 4000 and 18,000. I'm using the 18,000 figure, and that belonged to Vegeta during his fight with Goku during the Saiyan invasion. Vegeta stated that when he was a child, he was already more powerful than the King Vegeta. So I figured I just use him as the upper echelon of what an elite Saiyan could do at the time. Obviously, with training and Zenkai boost, these power levels could change. As we see with Goku and Vegeta, I already touched on that as well. But yeah, that's it for my video on the Saiyan army. Thank you very much for tuning in. If there's anything I missed, feel free to post it in the comment section below. Let me know what you think regarding my assessment of Saiyan ranks and their power levels. Likewise, I am open to suggestions for new videos and the channel in general. Please also consider liking the video or subscribing to the channel for future videos. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.